of change that will occur or had actually occurred because of the engulfing or the integrate or including of e-business into ERP systems. Now, ERP systems are very expensive systems. They require a lot of investment in terms of money. Any implementation would not cost less than $1 million. So it requires a lot of financial investment. It also requires investment in terms of time. It takes a lot of time for you to understand the system, understand how you are going to configure the system. What choices will you make in order to best fit your needs? It also requires investment in terms of people. Different people need to work or be part of the implementation team. You will have to have representative from each functional area so that they review the business process and make sure that the way it is configured is the best for the organization. So because of that huge amount of resources required for an ERP, for the implementation of an ERP system, there has to be significant benefits, tangible and intangible, short-term and long-term, for an organization to be willing to invest in that system. So the system is very expensive. You have to have benefits. What are the benefits? We have talked about many. We talked about knowledge sharing, that now you have information sharing between the different functional areas. We have integration of the functional areas altogether, which improve the speed of doing a business process, the accuracy, because you don't have to re-enter data. Quality of data is much better. Everything is in one centralized database. You also, because you have one system, now the updates for the system is done once. So every 6 months, the vendor may release a new update. So you don't have that large number of maintenance that we used to have with the silos or with the separate unintegrated systems, because now each system may have to be down for a couple of days in order to be updated. Now here you have only one rollout, one maintenance for the whole system done by the vendor. The IT staff will also are centralized in one department, so all those who support the ERP are in one department. They are very knowledgeable about the software, and they support the whole organization. You have one interface. You will see that when we start working with SAP, that the screens look very similar. So if you are doing sales, or you are doing purchasing, or you are doing production, very similar screens. So again, that will lower the employee training. You will have less employee training, because once you get training on one, and you will actually feel it yourself. When you do sales, will be very hard. Actually, you do purchasing first. Purchasing will be hard because this is the first time you're using the system. Sales becomes a bit easier, and then production is very easy because now you got used to it. You will see that there is a lot of controls within the system in order to prevent, for example, people from doing unethical behavior. So you also have security. We will do the segregation of duties, where you define what should be the access for every individual or every employee. So those who have access to the system, what can they do? What should they be able to do? And that's part of the security. So what are the disadvantages of ERP? As we said, ERP systems are very complex systems, and it will take a lot of time and effort in order to install a system and to configure it. Configuration is like setting the system up, making choices that best fit the needs of the organization. So how many types of orders do you want? It depends upon your organization. What kind of access will you give to an accounts receivable staff, for example? These are the choices that you will have to make for every single business process. So it takes a lot of time for you to install and to configure the system, you will see that you will have to have knowledgeable employees who are familiar with the system. You cannot get someone who doesn't have any idea about ERP system and just give them a manual and tell them go ahead and configure the system. That will not work. A lot of issues with the network and the hardware and so on. Now, we have a lot of consolidation. We said all the database all the data resides in one central database. We have one application server or maybe two application servers. We have like people, IT, who are centralized, focused on supporting ERP system. We have one application that supports the whole organization. So that centralization, that consolidation, a lot of times cause problems within organizations. Why? Because people do not like to conform. They don't like to be forced to do things in one way. You will always find people who want exceptions. They don't like it. They want a different way. But with an ERP system, you have to understand that it is a pre-packaged solution. That, like when we talked about the architecture being predetermined, prefixed by the vendor, the logic is also prefixed. The software, the application is prefixed. The hardware, the specific configuration is already determined. Now, when you implement an ERP system, you already had systems before, and now you're taking the data from these systems, converting them and transforming them and putting them into a new system. So that's very tedious. Of course, it is very tedious, and it's a complex process, but it's much easier than having to re-enter the data from scratch. So re-entering the data will take a lot of time. A lot of organizations, what they will do is they will convert the data into the format that SAP accept, and they will load the data into the database. As I said, you need to have specialized IT staff who understand ERP system, but also the end user, the people who use the system on a daily basis, need to be retrained and need to understand the new way of doing business that is engulfed or encapsulated within ERP systems. So these are like some of the limitations of an ERP system. The business benefits of ERP system is now with an ERP in place, a company is able to respond to change quicker. So if there is a change in the market, which means that now, or I'm going into a new market, or I need to make changes because, like, let's say I have to reduce the price, you can do that now quicker with an ERP system. You have information sharing, so which support collaboration between the units. So now, instead of having these silos, these functional areas that do not talk to each other, you have business units. You have a business unit where you have collaboration between the functional areas in order to better support the customer. Remember what we talked about at the beginning? We said that customer focus required integration, required collaboration among the different functional areas, required information sharing. That sharing of information, when it happens in real time, which means automatically, like as soon as a change happens in one functional area, another functional area can see it right away, or an external partner can see it. So, for example, companies have the RFIDs, or now with the Internet of Things, as soon as I sell a specific product, the supplier knows, and they know when I need to replenish my inventory. When do I need another shipment to be sent to me? They know what my customers prefer, what color. So let's say I am a store that sells different types or different colors of t-shirts. For simplicity, we'll assume that I'm just selling t-shirts. So, and I sell white, blue, red, and black. Now, the supplier can see right away which one has higher demand. So if the black has higher demand, then they can, in the next shipment, without me even saying, they say, okay, instead of sending 20, 20, 20, 20, we are going to send 10, 10, 10, 50 or 40. Because they can see that information. There is the exchange of that information in real time with the supplier improves the efficiency, and of course it improves the customer service, because now I don't run out of the black t-shirts quickly. I have more stock of it, so more customers, as they come in asking for it, they can find it. There is of course efficiency of the business process. So the business process costs less resources. I don't need as many people to support the business process because a lot of things are automated. And I also have reduction in the time. So instead of doing a business process in 2 days, now I can do it in a couple of hours. And that's because it is streamlined with the ERP system. Again, the problem that we see is that you have to retrain employees and get them accustomed to the new system, and that requires a lot of time and also a lot of money in terms of having to retrain. If an employee goes for training for 1 day, that means that employee does not do their job for 8 hours, so you're losing their productivity for 8 hours. In that 8 hours, I mean, they could achieve a lot. So that, what if I am training 25 or 100 employees? Now you have to understand that when these employees or the end users use the system, the roles change. And what they were able to see, now they will not be able to see. What they were not sharing with other departments, now they have to share. There is information that they have to share. So there is a lot of resistance for the system, and there is also it creates upheaval, which means that there is friction among the different functional units. So as we said, the ERP implementation is a lengthy process. It starts really with understanding your business process. You have to understand it and understand who are the people involved in it, what kind of software applications are being used, what functional areas are involved in that business process. You also have to look at it. The visibility means looking at the process from the beginning until the end, looking at all the steps and examining it carefully to see whether there is any bottlenecks, any problems in any step throughout the process. In the visibility, when you are carefully examining the business process, that's where you will identify changes that need to be done. And this understanding will help you when you are choosing an ERP, and also when you are customizing and configuring the ERP system. So, first step of the implementation is to really understand your own business process. Who are the people involved? What kind of applications? What business functions are involved? To carefully examine it throughout, carefully examine the steps itself and see if there are any problems, any bottlenecks. And then the control is to identify what changes need to be done in order to improve the efficiency and effectiveness of the business process. Usually, this is called business process management. Understanding your process, your business processes, is called a business process management. And there are several methodologies out there which are like step-by-step method to tell you what to do. How do you understand the business process? How do you create visibility for it? How do you control it? So that's a methodology that's called business process management, and it helps you document your business process and understand it and identify the problems. So improve business process. When you improve the business process, you can improve your customer satisfaction. You can reduce the cost because now you have less problems. Reduce the time it takes you in order to finish a business process. You can run more than one transaction in less amount of time, so you are increasing productivity, and also allocating the resources who are like major resources is really the human resources to value added activities that will result in increase in profit, increase in sales. So instead of getting a lot of people involved in the back end where there is no really communication with the customers, now you are taking them away from the back end and reallocating them to customer facing activities in order, again, because building a good relationship with the customer will result in higher profit than in managing inventory. Managing inventory can be done by machines. So now you are reallocating, taking resources away from activities that do not generate profit and allocating them into activities that increase revenue and increase profit. The second step is to understand the ERP life cycle. You have to understand that this is a lengthy project. It's not a thing that you would do one time and then forget about it. So once I implement the ERP, then I don't need to, like it will run by itself. That's not the case. Actually, in one of the cases that we will discuss, mastering the enterprise system, you will see that this is an ongoing process, that you are ongoingly, because again, the vendor is constantly updating the system and adding new features to it. So there is a lot of training involved, learning involved, and changes. So the implementation is very risky, and you have to go through it in a what we call a staged implementation, which means you cannot go full-fledged at in one step. You will have to go through a phased implementation, which means take one step at a time. And you have to follow a methodology in order, a very well-defined methodology in order to succeed. Because it is complex, because it requires, as we said, a lot of resources in terms of money, people, time, all of that. You have to be very careful in the implementation. We also remember, people will always resist change, and we are talking about an ERP system that has its own business process that may be different from what the people in your company are used to. So there will be resistance. There will be resistance to change. Like people will not welcome the idea that they have to learn a new way of doing business. Like we have been doing it for 10 years. Everything is running fine. Why do we have to change? They don't understand that in the long term, this is for the benefit of the organization and for their benefit also, because if the organization is not able to compete and is not able to provide the same services that the competitors are providing, they will not have their job. So on the long run, it is also for the benefit of the employees. But the employees will always focus on the short term. There has to be education and training and communication, constant communication to communicate the need for change, that there has to be a need, there has to be a change, and that's for the benefit of the organization and the benefit of the employees themselves. So here is a sample methodology where you start with the understanding the requirements, the needs for each functional area, and then come up with a system design, a design for the system, build it and test it, implement it, use it for to support the business process and handle all kind of problems. So any problem, resolve all of the issues, and then stabilize it, which means like start like providing support for day-to-day business activity. This is done for the functional application, the technical architecture, and also the change management that needs to be done in order to bring the organization to adopt the new business process. So at the initial stages of the implementation, you require a lot of resources in terms of human capital, in order to configure the system and test it and make it ready for production. And then the need for resources or human resources drop dramatically after you go live. But remember that every now and then the vendors are updating the system in order to make it competitive. So with every upgrade, you will require testing again, and that's when you will see the spike in resource requirement. The rest of this chapter will talk about how do we select a vendor, how do we manage ERP implementation, how do we manage change within the organization. Should we hire consultants or can we do it ourselves? How do we re-engineer a business process? What are global and ethical and security concerns in the implementation of an ERP? I've combined these set of questions that we will do as a discussion. As usual, I'm going to leave part of like a few pages of each chapter for the groups to lead the discussion on. So I would like you to read the rest of the chapter. I'm like, watch the video, read the rest of the chapter, and come prepared to answer these questions. Thank you very much for listening, and I look forward to the class discussion.